One of the most frustrating experiences that we can have is to be in a relationship with someone who always shuts down when there's any problem. And it's just, you don't even have to be anxiously attached to have that be a problem. It's just a problem in general. Whenever there's a problem or whenever we bring something up to them, they kind of pull away, and then we don't know what they're feeling or what they're thinking, and then we think the problem is me, and then we start to get anxious regardless of our attachment style. And then we think, how can I get through to this person? And then maybe a day goes by or a couple of days go by, and then things kind of return to normal and things are good. But then you want to bring something up to them again, but you know that if you do, that they're going to shut down, then there isn't going to be a productive conversation. It's absolutely maddening. And I always say you can't build a relationship with someone who's always pulling away, because communication and being able to work through problems is the most important thing. If you're going to be in a relationship with anyone, there's guaranteed going to be conflict, and it's how you repair that changes everything. And it was interesting because someone had submitted a question to me, and they actually recorded their question. And she was referring to her boyfriend and how he has this quote unquote destructive pattern of always shutting down, and she doesn't know what to do. And so I could easily just say, oh my God, well, you have to leave him. But I wanted to give much more detailed advice on what to do, because here's the truth. If you're going to just share with me over an email, should you stay or should you go, unless there's some sort of like serious abuse, no one can really tell you, because I just don't know all the details of your relationship. But there is something that we all have to realize, is that if we love someone, and while it's absolutely true that we can't build a secure, safe relationship, there's no way that we could feel safe with someone when they're constantly pulling away and shutting down. And what if there was something that we could do differently that might change the dynamic? And even if it didn't change the dynamic, at least we know that we actually grew as a result of being in this kind of relationship. So I'm going to play this question for you, and then I'm going to give an answer that gives the answer, like, what should you do when you're in a relationship with someone who has the habit, the pattern of when there's any sort of issue or conflict, they shut down and they pull away.
Hi, Jillian. My boyfriend of 1 year has a destructive pattern of behavior that he seems to be unwilling to address. This behavior is damaging and excruciatingly painful for me. He's aware it doesn't serve his relationships. Because of the personal growth journey I've been on for many years, I've been able to see this as something that he could nurture. It usually happens when he feels like he isn't living up to my needs, or when I make a need request and my timing is bad. He goes into avoidance and dodges my requests for communication via text, usually. Instead of giving me reassurance, he becomes a different person almost. I try to leave him be and wait for him to reach back out, but the time is painful and damaging. I always end up reaching out. I talk him off the ledge of wanting to run away, and we end up in a good place again. The thing is, I can't keep doing it, as it is so incredibly devastating for me, and I literally can't function during this dark period of being avoided, despite my efforts to remain steady. He's 57, I'm 48, and I want our relationship to be a success. I've listened to each of your episodes, and we've even listened to some together. However, he hasn't or won't look into this. He loses all perspective when this happens. He never talks to anyone and doesn't seek help. He'd rather walk away than do the work. Also, he's never had his heart broken, always been the heartbreaker. What should I do?
So, I mean, like I said, to be in a relationship with someone who always shuts down and avoids whenever there's a problem or whenever you're expressing a need. And then they're also not willing to do any work. I mean, this person mentioned that the person's 57. I mean, we can always change at 57, but obviously, not obviously, but clearly this is a habit. This is a pattern that he's been practicing for a long time. It's very well practiced. It's in his nervous system. And so the short answer is there's no way you can't build a relationship with someone who's doing this. You can't sustain a relationship. But I also believe, as in the title of my book, is that it begins with you. And so whether you stay in the relationship or go, that is ultimately up to you to decide what you can and cannot live with. And it's certainly not my place to tell you or anyone else whether or not to stay in their relationship or not, given that I've never met you. But what I will say is that whenever we are facing a significant problem in our relationship, such as this, because this is a significant problem, because it damages trust and closeness, and repair is the ability to repair and to bounce back from disharmony in your relationship is what creates safety in a relationship. And that said, we want to be able to always turn the mirror towards us, not in a self-blaming way, but in a way in which we can take some sort of responsibility for our relationship and do everything that we can to show up in the best way that we can before we make the decision to stay or to go. Because ultimately, what we want to do is to be able to say, if we do end a relationship, we want to be able to say and admit to ourselves, I'm not perfect. So therefore, I did everything I could to really make the situation better and to help him help me before I left. And then you can walk away knowing, I did the work. I was not just expecting him to do the work. You see, it's really difficult to sustain a relationship and make it healthy and loving and fulfilling when we believe that the other person is the person who needs to reform, heal, and change. This episode is sponsored by Lumen. Lumen is the world's first handheld metabolic coach. It's a device that measures your metabolism through your breath. And on the app, it lets you know if you're burning fat or carbs and gives you tailored guidance to improve your nutrition, workouts, sleep, and even stress management. All you have to do is breathe into your Lumen first thing in the morning, and you'll know what's going on with your metabolism, whether you're burning mostly fat or carbs. Then Lumen gives you a personalized nutrition plan for that day based on your measurements. Metabolic health is what I've learned to be the most important thing. It's how our bodies turn the food we eat into fuel that keeps us going. The warmer months are coming. Spring back into your health and fitness. Go to lumen.me/onlove to get 15% off your Lumen. That is lumen.me/onlove for 15% off your purchase. Thank you, Lumen, for sponsoring this episode. Now, that's not to say that you could be in a relationship. One of you listening to this, or you could have been in a relationship where truly the other person did need to change in order for your relationship with them to be healthy. But remaining in a relationship where you believe that the other person is the only one who needs to heal, or that they need to change themselves in order for you to be happy, that's not a relationship that's sustainable. We have to be able to say to ourselves, what can I do differently? And we have to remove the lens that so many of us look through, which is that it's very black or white. It's very binary. It's either they have to change or I have to change. It's either their fault or it's my fault. When we have to see that we are part of a dynamic. And so what I heard in that question is clearly, anytime you're going to be in a relationship with a man, he is going to want to feel like he's winning with you. And he's going to need to be appreciated for what he does bring to the table that's positive. And regardless of who we date, if we're only bringing our complaints, our grievances, our problems about the relationship and the other person to the person, they're never going to feel motivated to change. It's an interesting thing. We change when we are positively reinforced. There are studies that prove that in a classroom, when you tell students how capable they are, how smart they are, how brilliant they are, they actually, more times than not, rise to the occasion and reach their potential. But if this teacher's always telling the student that, well, you're not good at math, or that's not where your potential is, or whatever it is, any sort of thing that doesn't positively reinforce them, they actually end up failing certain tests. If you take that same student and you tell them how amazing they are and actually that like they are really good at math, they'll actually do better. So this is a really fascinating phenomena where when we believe in ourselves and we believe that it's possible and we're positively reinforced, we rise to the occasion. So it's really important that in a relationship, we need to be able to express our needs. Like if I had this woman's boyfriend, one thing that I would be saying to him is that most women, we have to learn how to actually have boundaries in a relationship. This is not all women, but an overwhelming majority of women have to learn how to actually say what it is that they need in a relationship, and that it's actually harder for us to express our needs. Now, I think it's pretty hard for everyone to sort of express their needs in a relationship, or for most people to express their needs in a relationship because they don't know how to. But the reality is this: he wants to make you happy. He wants to be good enough. Everyone in a relationship just wants to be good enough. And so I wonder if your habit is to only bring up the ways in which he is failing to meet your needs without balancing it with all the ways in which he's winning with you. And look, you could say, well, actually, there are way more needs that are being unmet than needs that are being met. There are way more problems than there are good times. Well, then you have to reassess your relationship and not cling to the potential of it, but see the reality of it. The Gottmans in their research prove that we have to have something like 5 times more positive interactions with our partner than negative in order for it to be a fulfilling relationship. That does not mean the absence of negative interactions. It just means that the positive interactions have to be 5 times more frequent. And so if we truly believe that our partner is just not meeting our needs and not being what we need them to be, and that's far more than the things that they actually bring to the table, that's a problem. But let me give you an example. I was speaking to someone recently, and she was saying that she lives with her partner, man, and they're engaged, and she really needs a clean home. Because when her home is clean, she feels grounded and peaceful and easeful. She feels a sense of ease. When her home is messy and chaotic, she can't feel those things. Her partner, he has ADHD. He cannot clean, he cannot maintain and clean up and create that very neat home in the way that she needs. She was trying to, she was asking me, well, is that a deal breaker? How can I live like this? Is it just that he's lazy? She even thought things to herself like, maybe he doesn't love me, or maybe he doesn't care, or he's not doing the work. But as she explained more of her scenarios, she said, she realized that her partner brings so much to the table, so much love, so much emotional availability, so much humor, so much safety. And so I said to her, and she asked, so how does one distinguish between what is a deal breaker versus something that we should kind of work through and stay with? And I said, well, it's not the clean home, it's what it brings you. It's about your values. So your core needs, your core values are feeling grounded, peacefulness, and ease. And what you're saying, based on what you said, he brings that to your life. He shares those values. He brings peace to your life. He brings ease. He brings safety. He brings emotional availability. He brings all these things. So it's not about, the home is just a metaphor for what your true needs and values are, which he's meeting disproportionately. He's going above and beyond. But it's just this one thing, the clean home. This episode is sponsored by O Positive. O Positive is a women's health company. They offer a range of symptom-targeting supplements that support women at every stage of life, from their first period to well beyond their last. And they're really proud to be the best-selling women's health products at Target and on Amazon. They have a product called Uro, and Uro Vaginal Probiotics is one of the top 5 supplements on Amazon. And they have #1 products that target for intimate care, PMS, and menopause categories. What makes them special is that they create real, tangible results with ingredients that are backed by clinical studies and shaped by board-certified doctors. Uro is a probiotic blend specifically formulated to support vaginal health, to balance healthy vaginal pH and flora. Because ladies, we know sex, tight clothing, sweat from working out, hormones, periods, all these things can disrupt the vaginal health, and basically the vaginal microbiome. Urovaginal Probiotic is a blend of 4 powerful strains, and it also contains prebiotics that increase effectiveness of the probiotics. So take proactive care of your health and head to opositive.com/JOL or enter JOL at checkout for 25% off your first purchase. That's opositive.com/JOL for 25% off. So the solution is not to try to change him into being someone who's going to clean the home. The solution is, do you have the means to hire someone to clean? And which she does, which they do. And so that's the solution. Because she's not going to get rid of her partner, break up with her partner who brings 5-10 times more than what she needs, proportionate to the home. When someone is constantly shutting down, it's hard to really think about the good things, because constantly shutting down is never going to yield safety in a relationship. Not cleaning up the home might be annoying, but when you look at it in the larger picture and you see how much ease and groundedness that this person is bringing to you, which is what ultimately you value most, then you can come up and come up with a solution. So my question is, do you love this person enough to self-reflect on how you might be complicit, even if it's just a little bit, in what it is that you say you don't want in your relationship? In other words, is it true or possible that all you're really at, you keep bringing up where he's falling short with you, and you don't bring up at least 5 times more all the ways in which you love him and you appreciate him and the ways in which he's winning in this relationship with you. And so part one is, if you can't even think of the ways in which your partner is winning with you, the ways in which they are meeting your needs for your deepest core values to feel whatever that is. You know, the examples I gave for this one person was groundedness and peace and safety. Your core values might be something else. If you can honestly say that need is not being met at all, then perhaps you have your answer, that there's really, then you have to ask yourself, really, then why are you in this relationship even at all? But if you can say, you know what, there are ways in which he's winning with me. There are things that I really, truly, deeply appreciate about him and what he brings to the table. And if I'm really honest with myself, I don't tell him those things, or I tell him those things, but I tell him the ways in which he's not meeting my needs more. And so if that's true, then what you're creating in your partner is that he doesn't feel safe with you. And so he's shutting down, but he's going into his defense mechanism. I'm not condoning it. I think shutting down is the worst thing you can do in your relation. One of the worst things you can do in your relationship. I don't care what you identify as your attachment style. That's something that you would need to work on. So I'm not condoning his behavior, but if we are going to take my book, the principle, it begins with you as sort of the guiding North Star in all relationships, which is, that's my belief that it needs to be. Then we have to be able to say to ourselves, you know, how might I be approaching these conversations that I wish to have with my partner in a way that is reinforcing his fear of not being enough and his fear of not knowing how to communicate. Because he's shutting down because he doesn't feel good enough. Not an excuse, it's an explanation. You can't heal him into feeling good enough, but you can reflect, just like we all can reflect on how we can adjust ourselves, because none of us are perfect, and relationships didn't come with we weren't born with a manual on how to do relationships. So if you can reflect on how you might be adding to the problem, then you're well on your way to relationship mastery, honestly, because then you can say, okay, yes, he does add value. Yeah, if this one thing could change, I think I would feel amazing. You know, yes, I can appreciate all these things. Okay, second part, have I been telling him that? Or have I only just bringing the problems? And so now what you have to do is tell him the ways in which he's been winning. Take responsibility. And if this is ringing true for you, take responsibility and share. I realize that I've only been bringing my grievances to you. And I don't tell you nearly enough how much you actually mean to me and how much I respect you and admire you, or whatever it is, or how wonderful I feel, or how much you make me happy. This episode is sponsored by Indeed. When it comes to hiring, if you are someone who owns a business and you need to hire, Indeed is what you need. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. Indeed sponsored jobs help you stand out and really helps you hire fast, honestly. With Indeed sponsored jobs, there are no monthly subscriptions, no long-term contracts, and you only pay for results. In the minute that I've been talking to you, 23 hires were made on Indeed. That's according to their data worldwide. Like I said, if you own a business or you're someone who needs to hire, this is actually genius. There's no need to wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of the show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/JOL. Just go to Indeed.com/JOL right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/JOL. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, all you need is Indeed. This episode is sponsored by Fatty 15. I'm really excited to share with you guys C15 from Fatty 15, which happens to be the first essential fatty acid to be discovered in more than 90 years. And it's actually an incredible scientific breakthrough to support our long-term health and wellness. And you guessed it, aging and longevity. Based on over 100 studies, we now know that C15 strengthens our cells and is a key longevity-enhancing nutrient, which helps to slow biological aging at the cellular level. And thankfully, Fatty 15 repairs age-related damage to cells, protects them from future breakdown, and activates pathways in the body that help regulate your sleep, mood, and natural repair mechanisms that support our overall health. I'm loving this supplement, seriously. Fatty 15 is on a mission to optimize your C15 levels to help you live healthier longer. You can get an additional 15% off their 90-day subscription starter kit by going to fatty15.com/Jillian and using code Jillian at checkout. It does not diminish the accountability that he needs to take in order to make this relationship work. However, I wonder that if you took accountability for that, of not sharing what is working and only pointing out where he's not winning with you or where they're not winning with you, to all of you who are listening to this, just maybe that could create a ripple effect that changes the whole dynamic. In that moment, you could become a cycle breaker. You could do things totally different and create and be the leader in your relationship in that moment that breaks the cycle. We all want to be seen. We all want to be known. We all want to be understood. And none of us want to be forgotten. And none of us want to be left or abandoned. And so we all have these ways in which we try to circumvent all that. And he might be too stuck in his ways and have too many dysfunctional patterns in order for you to be in a relationship with him. But you can't make that decision until you first ask yourself those questions. Could it be that I am adding to the unsafety of all this? Could it be that I'm just focusing on all the ways in which my needs are not being met, and I am not focusing or paying attention to or letting him know the ways in which he's winning with me? Could it be that the way that I'm approaching this is making him feel more and more like a failure? And even though I can't heal whatever shame that he has that's been with him for most of his life, or for a lot of his life, if I'm going to be an accountable person in a relationship, I can see how maybe I am not creating safety. And so that's my answer to that. And again, it's not about staying with the person or not staying with the person. You might need to get out really fast and not waste any more time, but it does begin with us. And if we want something to work, we have to be able to look within. And these are our blind spots, and we all have blind spots in relationships. And I'm here to kind of point out the potential blind spots so that whether you stay in the relationship and it gets better or it doesn't get better and you decide to leave, you will have grown and developed much more relationship skills that will continue or that will help you build better relationships in the future. And so I hope this helps. And definitely, if you have not checked out my book, be sure to check out my book. It Begins With You, The 9 Hard Truths About Love That Will Change Your Life, a New York Times bestseller. It is in the show notes. There's also an audiobook, which you can listen to it if you prefer to listen to it versus read it. But it's all of this idea of it begins with you and how to have these difficult conversations and how to build your self-worth so you stop tolerating BS in relationships. Also, really something exciting that's happening is I am relaunching a really, really incredible community and membership for women called The Conscious Woman, for every woman who wants to like step into their most secure, empowered self in relationships and in relationship with themselves. Doors are opening soon in June. Right now, there is a wait list. Their seats are very limited, and people who join the wait list are going to be guaranteed allowed in, and those who don't are not. So to join the wait list, check out the links below, and yeah, until next time. Jillian On Love is a QCODE production, executive produced by David Henning and Steve Wilson, produced and edited by Travis Howe, music by Will Tendy.